Hello everyone, and thanks very much for joining today's webinar on the relaunched MCHW. We'll just give it a few moments to allow other people to join. Right, the numbers seem to have levelled off a bit, so we'll make a start. Right, my name is Andrea and I'll be your facilitator today. Our key speakers today will be Steve Davey, Head of Technical Standards, Anthony Atkins, Principal Advisor, and Suleiman Sater, Senior Advisor. I've got a couple of housekeeping points to run through. Today's session is being recorded, so all microphones have been muted. If you have any questions, please could you pop them in the Q&A tab at the top. We've disabled the chat function to avoid duplication or confusion. We'll aim to answer as many questions as possible today, but any that we don't get round to answering will be added to the FAQ section on the MCHW Information Hub, and we'll share the link to that later on. If for any reason we experience any IT difficulties or any problems, we'll end the session and we'll set up a fresh date for a new webinar. In a moment, I'll hand you over to Steve Davey, but first, here's a short video from Mike Wilson, our Chief Engineer.
The Manual of Contract Documents for Highway Works ensures we deliver safe, efficient transport across the entire strategic road network. It provides the specifications that go into every construction project. We have modernised the MCHW to make it fit for the future. It will support innovation in digital design, construction and operation of highways infrastructure. This isn't just about updating old paperwork. This is about the future of digital construction and operation of our roads. It is the biggest update to these documents in their 30-year history and is the culmination of 5 years' work of technical specialists across 4 nations and industry. Thank you for watching this video about why we're making these important changes. Please check out the resources we have available.
Hello everyone and welcome to this webinar. We're going to talk about where we were in terms of the MCHW and where we are now, what has changed, how this affects you, and the available support, which is important as we do recognise the fact that this is quite a significant change to the way in which the industry has worked for many, many years. So it's important to note that National Highways looks after both the DMRB and the MCHW requirements on behalf of the whole of the United Kingdom motorway and all-purpose trunk road network. So the design manual contains the design requirements, and the manual for contract document for highway works contains the specification documents that is included in construction contracts, as well as how to prepare the contract work specific requirements, as we now call them, and the method and measurement for highway works. We work together with the devolved administrations in Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, as we continue to do so, as we always have done, over the production of these documents. And as you'll come to see later, that there is specific ways of getting into the document set, depending on which country of the United Kingdom you're working within. So although the main focus of this project has been to update the MCHW, it's important to recognise that 67 DMRB documents have either been introduced or updated as a result of this programme. Some of that is a transfer of design requirements that we found in the MCHW, others are updates to the DMRB to ensure that designers make the correct decisions as part of the design so that the specification can be fully completed as it goes to contract. And it's being published in a new consistent format. The MCH refresh is a bigger change than we ever saw with the DMRB, and it will affect all of our users. And it may be a steep learning curve as you get used to it, but we're sure it'll be better. So moving back to the agenda, where were we in 2020? The MCHW, it comprised of 7 volumes, 126 documents and 571 drawings and about 3,500 pages. It was always published in PDF, and the average age of the documents it was around 11 years, but increasing over time. And due to the MCHW's history, it was in an inconsistent style and format. And it had inconsistent contract specifications as a result of that. And we only ever give guidance before for how to create the work-specific contract specifications, which led to inconsistencies. There was no templates provided at that time. And it just underscores the importance of the work to undertake to modernise the MCHW, not just to tidy up legacy content, but to create a more coherent, accessible and future-ready framework for delivering world-class highways. So once we recognised that, what happened? Well, in 2020, the technical regulations protocol obligation come up into effect as part of the RIS2 arrangement for national highways to work with the DFT. And the DFT asked us to develop and deliver a work programme to refresh the MCHW during the second roads period, so that it reflects the needs of its users, and it should take account of the stakeholder consultation, which we did undertake in RIS1, that led to this being included in there. And it was based on that consultation involved, it was industry-wide, over 100 different organisations, including trade organisations, product manufacturers, designers and contractors were involved in that consultation to lead us to what we have now changed. And we was in charge of this work and working with the 4 overseeing organisations, and we created this vision for the future MCHW. It will provide clear and unambiguous requirements and instructions compatible with modern contract forms, because the old MCHW was largely written around the old ICE system of conditions of contract, which for the majority of the country is no longer in use, and future construction practices. So let's have a quick look at the timeline for this. So it was a continuation of the DMRB, which was published in 2020, and supported by the scenes in lots of things like the collaborative authoring and review system, CARS, which we use to develop new standards. I won't read all of these boxes out, but suffice to say, it was published on the 30th of September 2025, including all of the DMRB consequential amendments. The work was undertaken by National Highways technical specialists in conjunction with specialists from the devolved administrations across the UK, and often involving supply chain who were recruited to actually do some of the drafting work. And we verified the changes with many suppliers who undertook the contract compiler role. And these people who did that verification for us to prove that the new system now work as MCHW ambassadors to support the implementation. So if you work for a supplier that creates specifications, there's a good chance that you've got an MCHW ambassador somewhere within your company to assist you in developing the first set of specifications. So where are we now? The DMRB, or the MCHW, sorry, now has 3 document sets rather than the 5 volumes. It has 95 distinct MCHW documents and 2,800 pages of digitalized content. So there's 25% fewer documents, 20% fewer pages, and these are all being published in an HTML version, which is easier to access and navigate on the website. The documents are up to date and aligned with industry best practice, and we strive to keep them that way. And due to this update, the whole of the DMRB document set is in a consistent style and format. And finally, we've now got templates for contract specifications. And later on in this webinar, we'll explain a lot more about those and how you create them and find them, so that you can create the work-specific templates, work-specific requirements for your contract. Now, there's lots of benefits in the work that we've been doing. Firstly, it's both overseeing organisation and supply chain gets benefits out of this. It offers cleaner, up-to-date requirements and instructions, establishing a robust framework in support of future construction practices and innovation. The process of producing contract specifications is now much more efficient, with improved consistency and quality of the final outputs. And the documentation has been streamlined, resulting in fewer, more accessible and easier searchable resources. And finally, the newly introduced or amended requirements enable enhanced environmental outcomes, strengthen operational performance, such as through reduced temporary traffic management durations, and shorter construction programs, all of which helps to provide a better customer experience. At that point, I would like to pass over to Anthony, who will take you through some of the key changes to the documents in the MCHW.
Many thanks, Steve, for setting that scene so clearly. And good afternoon, everyone. So as Steve says, building on that, I'm going to take us through the changes in a bit more detail. Well, there are 6 key changes that are being introduced to the MCHW. A restructuring of the document set, a new document style, the introduction of templates to create contract specifications, the introduction of country-specific versions, updates to align the design manual and the MCHW, and selected updates to the technical content. So let's now explore each of those in turn. First up, the MCHW has a new structure. In the old world, the MCHW contained 7 volumes. The updated MCHW now contains 3 sets of documents. We have the new specification for highway works, SHW, and this primarily draws from what was volume 1, with additional material incorporated from volumes 0, 2, 3 and 5, and this covers the constructor requirements. We have the instructions for specifiers, and this is largely based on content from what was volume 2, plus relevant content from volumes 0 and 5. This covers instructions for the specifier in line with the relevant constructor requirement. And the third set is the method of measurement, and this is built largely upon what was volume 4, with a few rules coming from what was volume 5. A note on volume 3, which were the drawings. These were all reviewed as part of the programme, and relevant content has been transferred to the design manual or the specification for highway works as applicable as requirements or figures. In addition, content that was relevant to designers in the old volume 2 has been updated and moved to the design manual to provide those design rules. So in the new MCHW, in terms of the number of documents, there are now 44 specification for highway works documents. There's 45 instructions for specifiers documents. 44 of those are associated with the specification, and there is 1 introductory document. There are now 50 method of measurement documents. 44 of those are associated with the specification documents, and the remaining 6 are standalone. And finally, 52 existing design manual documents have been amended and 15 new documents created. Alongside this new structure, the MCHW has a new numbering system. In refreshing the MCHW, we took the opportunity to align in the numbering system with the matrix of technical requirements we introduced the design manual in Road Period 1. This matrix provides the framework for alphanumeric codes. The first letter of each document in the numbering system indicates the discipline. The second letter corresponds to the project lifecycle stage. The number depends on the specific topic. So, for example, instructions for specifiers, this relates to the contract preparation lifecycle stage, and therefore these documents are always denoted with a P. The specification for highway work documents, which relate to the construction stage, are denoted with a C. Here we have an example showing 3 road layout MCHW documents. On the left, we can see the specification document. It's prefixed with CC, identifying it as part of the civils discipline and indicating it as the constructor requirements, and the digits indicating it as part of the road layout topic. In the middle, we have the instructions for specifiers. It's prefixed with CP, identifying it also as part of the civils discipline, and the P indicating it as the contract preparation set. And finally, on the right, we have the method of measurement document. This are always associated with the related specification document. And here we can see how those documents sit within the technical matrix. There are a few key documents to be aware of. Firstly, the indexes for each of the SHW, IFS, and method of measurement for highway work documents. Secondly, the introductory documents, specifically GP 110, which gives the implementation requirements for the MCHW and instruction to specifiers on the compilation of contract documents for highway works, and GC 100, covering the introduction to the SHW, and GP 112, covering the introduction to the method of measurement for highway works. I'm also sharing here on the right a list of a few general documents replacing the preliminaries in the old MCHW. Moving us on to the next key change, the MCHW requirements have a new consistent style. Looking back to the old MCHW, we used to have multiple requirements in the same paragraph, and a combination of requirements and advice, none of which appropriate for a contractual document. And a similar approach to the notes for guidance, and a loose relationship with the related contract-specific appendices in Volume 2. The new specification for highway works offers clear and concise constructor requirements, with a consistent structure for product, installation, verification, and documentation requirements. As each of you begin working with these documents, you'll quickly notice familiar patterns that make application much more intuitive. The new instructions for specifier documents incorporate the requirements from the specification, while also providing associated specifier instructions to enhance usability and minimizing the need to navigate between the different document sets. These instructions come in 2 forms, either as direct statements, like the example that's currently on the screen, or as schedules designed to be completed. Finally, you will begin to see references to work-specific requirements, WSR. The work-specific requirements replace the old contract-specific appendices using a standardized format. They play an important role in this updated style. And I'm going to walk you through the WSR over the next few slides. So on to the work-specific requirement templates. Requirements relevant to a particular contract are now to be provided within templates, which will be downloaded from the Standards for Highways website for each Instruction for Specifiers document. When accessing the Instruction for Specifiers document page, you scroll down, you will see a section titled Additional Documents, and this is where you can download the WSR template. Each template will have a tab per relevant section, with work-specific requirements to be provided within schedules or statements. An example can be seen on the left-hand side of the screen. The text that is in red is guidance content. Each template will also have a departure schedule to list cancelled, substitute, or additional requirements which have been previously submitted and approved for a departure from standards. Recognising that this is a significant change, detailed guidance on how to complete the work-specific requirement templates and prepare for dissemination, including how to display large tables, for example, is provided on the Information Hub, which Solomon will introduce in a while. Moving us on, a significant change we've introduced is represented by the country-specific versions. You'll know that in the old manual, documents had national variations, typically provided in annexes. Now they are presented within the main text. When accessing a document from the Standards for Highways website, users are now prompted to select a relevant country and open a country-specific version. Here you can see an example of what these documents look like. Specifically, the nationally determined requirements are introduced by the country prefix, this being E for National Highway Requirements, NI for the Department for Infrastructure of Northern Ireland, S for Transport Scotland, and W for Welsh Government requirements. The next key change has been about aligning the MCHW and the Design Manual for Roads and Bridges. The MCHW works only in partnership with the Design Manual. So in refreshing the MCHW, relevant DMRB documents have also been reviewed and amended to align content. We've also created the 15 additional DMRB documents to cover items that were not previously dealt with. Importantly, this supports the wider aspiration of the overseeing organisations to reinforce continuity of thinking from design through to construction and into handover into maintenance and operation. And finally, technical requirements in MCHW documents and the associated DMRB content have been updated to bring them up to date. This included a review of latest industry practice and standards to make the documents set fit for the future. We're not going to run through specific technical changes to each document now. There are far too many to try and cover. However, a summary of key technical changes by document is available on the Information Hub that Solomon will introduce, and we've also shared a list of all topics contained in the updated MCHW, which will help you find relevant information more easily. What I'd like to flag, though, today is that throughout this work, a detailed assessment of the changes made has been undertaken, and this has revealed a range of positive impacts, including environmental considerations, The introduction of more options will contribute to improved sustainable outcomes. Operational considerations. We will be able to see shorter traffic management periods and reduced construction programs, which in turn enhance health and safety practices. Ultimately, these improvements will translate into meaningful benefits for our customers. Thank you. I'm now going to pass on to my colleague Solomon, who's going to explain how this affects you and the available support.
Thank you, Anthony, for a clear and precise explanation of the changes. Good afternoon, folks. So next on the agenda, we will focus on implementation of the MCHW since launch and its impact on different roles interacting with it, and where to find relevant support and guidance. So I expect many of you will be wondering when the updated documents will be used, how it affects your projects, and whether you need to change what you are doing in response to those updates. Well, in short, we expect new contracts that are let from 30th September 2025 onwards will implement the updated documents. The implementation requirements are stated in the new GP 110 document titled Introduction to the MCHW. This document includes the option for overseeing organizations not to use the updated MCHW for a project that is advanced in the design stage, where it would significantly increase cost and impact on delivery time on existing contracts. Your client project manager will be responsible for making this decision in accordance with the implementation requirements specified in GP 110. And this is consistent with the current practice when adopting and when you adopt and when we update and publish standards. Please remember, though, the old style and new style MCHW documents should not be mixed, as this can create contractual confusion. Unless you decide to use a specific new document or any new clauses on an existing contract, in which case it will need a departure from standards. So, two key messages from this slide. Firstly, the implementation requirements are stated in GP 110, so please get familiar with it first. It's important. And secondly, the decision is for the project team to make and to record on how you do that relevant to your project. On the next slide, I've got answers to 4 frequently asked questions we received from previous webinars. Hopefully, it will answer some key questions which you may be thinking of asking on when to implement the MCHW documents. So here we go with the first one. I have an existing construction contract let before 30th September 2025. Should I redraft my contract specific specification to align with the updated MCHW? The answer is it is not envisaged that the updated MCHW would be used. Please note that even though the MCHW documents required by the contract will now show as superseded on the Standards for Highways website, they can still be used in most cases for existing contracts. Second question is, I have an existing construction contract let before 30th September 2025, and I now need to update the contract specific specification. Should I use the updated DMRB and MCHW documents? So in this case, there is a contract change. Hence, the project team would need to decide how they wish to implement the design changes and whether to use the updated DMRB. It is not envisaged that the updated MCHW would be used to draft updated contract-specific specification. As previously mentioned, this would need to be confirmed by the project manager and recorded by the project team. The third question, I have designed to the old DMRB, which completed before 30th September 2025, and I now need to start drafting the contract-specific specification. Should I redesign it following the updated DMRB and then use the updated MCHW? Well, it is not envisaged that the redesign would be needed. However, this would need to be confirmed by the project manager and recorded by the project team. In terms of drafting content-specific specification, the implementation requirements stated in GP 110 would need to be complied with. The decision whether to use the new documents will depend on the stage of your project and the impact of implementing the new documents. Fourth question. My project is using the previous version of the MCHW. Can I adopt technical changes implemented in the updated MCHW and DMRB documents? In this case, if the project team wanted to use any of the individual technical changes in the individual updated MCHW documents, then they could use the alteration system for the old MCHW. That means to use substitute requirements, additional requirements, and or cancelled requirements as set out in the old series NG000. Again, that would need to be assessed for individual technical areas. There are different roles interacting with the updated MCHW and DMRB documents. As shown on the screen, and you all need to be familiar with the relevant updates to technical requirements depending on the role that you carry out. Implications on your role vary depending on what you do. We've identified 9 audiences, and over the next few slides, I'll cover some high-level information about key impacts. More details are provided on the MCHW Information Hub. So as a designer, firstly, you will need to be aware of DMRB's consequential amendments. As presented by Anthony earlier, there are 67 DMRB documents which have either been updated or newly created to align with the MCHW. Technical changes have been made, so please be familiar with those. It is important to note there is no change to established practice. You will continue to undertake design activities and produce design outputs. The main difference is that those outputs will now need to be used to populate the work-specific requirement templates rather than the contract-specific appendices. As a specifier, you will need to familiarize yourself with the new instructions to compile the contract specifications, which are now provided in the IFS documents in line with the relevant construction requirement. It is important to note you are now expected to complete the work-specific requirements, the WSR templates. Please follow the guidance contained on the MCHW Information Hub, which I'm going to show you in a second. As a constructor, you will need to make sure you've reviewed the updated SHW documents. Some technical changes have been made. Next, take time to get familiar with the WSR templates so they will be used for the new contract specific specification. And finally, just keep in mind any implementation considerations that may affect delivery on site. As a project manager, you will need to understand implementation considerations, particularly for existing contracts. It is recommended that you read and digest GP 110 if you are intending to use the updated documents on your schemes. Review them in detail. Technical changes have been made. As a product supplier, you'll need to start by reviewing the updated documents for the technical areas relevant to your product or service. In most cases, if your materials or products met the requirements of the old MCHW, they are likely to align with the updated version as well. However, it's essential to ensure they meet the specific specification requirements of the contract they're being used for. As a certification body, you'll need to be aware that the new document and clause numbering system may affect existing certifications, especially where they reference the old series or clause numbers. It's important to review the updated documents for the technical areas relevant to your product or service and to check the latest verification and documentation requirements to ensure continued compliance. If you are a quantity surveyor, you will need to be aware that the new MMHW documents have been broken up into different documents aligned with the SHW documents, although the content within it is largely unchanged. You will need to be familiar with the WSR templates as well. Where the contract involves bills of quantities, you will use the MMHW contract specific specification, which also includes the completed WSR template and drawings to measure and assess the cost of the solution. As a local authority, we recommend you review the documents and check whether the changes made can impact your own documentation. For example, the new document and clause numbering system may affect your documents if there are direct references to the old MCHW series or clauses. Whilst the MCHW has been drafted for the motorway and trunk road network, WSR templates can be targeted to different roads and related authorities, making them usable by anyone or everyone. And finally, as software developers, key points are that the new document and clause numbering system, including the MMHW, may impact your software if there are direct references to the old MCHW series or clauses. Also, the content is now provided in HTML format with a plan to provide an API interface for third-party systems in due course. So we're on to the final section where we will run through the available support. We will cover how to find the updated documents, the available guidance, and the support routes for feedback. So let's start with how to find the specification for highway works documents. So all our documents are published on and available to download from the Standards for Highways website. The search functionality has been updated, so you will now be searching by country, document type, and applicable date, which is a date relevant to your contract. So if you are looking for the most current documents, please set the date to today, or you can find previous versions by using the relevant past date. Once you launch the search, the following page will appear, listing all relevant documents. You can now see the expanded view, and you can also select a compact view by clicking here. Okay, so let's select CC120 for now. This is a specification document. The document page will appear. You can open the document in HTML or download a PDF version of it. You can also see the timeline at the bottom of the page, including both current and superseded versions. Let's just pause here for a second on the topic of superseded versions. While the MCHW documents specified in a contract may now appear as superseded or withdrawn on the official website, they remain valid for use because they are the versions referenced in your contract. It's important to remember the contract governs which document versions apply, not the current status shown online. So don't be misled by the website labels. What matters is what's written in the contract. Similar to the specification for highways works, you can also search for instructions for specified documents shown on the following page. The approach for document search, country specific and applicable date is similar as previously shown. Let's select CP120 to illustrate. This is an IFS document. As before, the document page will appear. Importantly, the WSR templates are available to download from the instructions for specifier document pages, as you can see on the screen. We recognize that this is a substantial change, so we are keen to support this transition. In addition to the usual standards for highways help pages, we have also developed a dedicated MCHW information hub. This is a website that covers essential guidance for the implementation of the updated MCHW. The hub explains why the MCHW has changed and what has changed, including key changes at suite level and document mapping from old to new. For example, it shows what happened to an old series, the alignment with the relevant new MCHW and the associated DMRB documents affected by the change. We've also summarized key changes at document level. As mentioned earlier, we have included a list of all topics treated in the MCHW to help find relevant information. Another important part of the hub is what do I do, including impact on all relevant parties such as designers, contractors, product manufacturers, how to navigate standards for highways website, accessing download documents and templates, both individually and in packages, accessing older versions, implementing considerations, and step-by-step guides to preparing and disseminating a contract-specific specification using the WSR template. This hub is accessible to all and available via a link from the Standards for Highways website. The hub is kept up to date and the latest additions are flagged into the carousel on the home page. We recognize people will be coming to the updated MCHW at different times, so the MCHW information hub will remain live as long as it is needed. If you are unable to find the support that you need on the information hub, please reach out to ask questions, which leads us to on our final slide on available support, and that is the feedback. If you have any questions or feedback on the updated MCHW or on the information hub, please make use of the feedback form on the Standards for Highways website. When using this form, your feedback will be directed to the relevant team for response or action. Please do get in touch, as this will help us to ensure the information is supporting the industry in transitioning well to the updated MCHW DMRB documents. So that brings me to the end of this session, and I'll hand back to Steve for the closing remarks. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Sully. We do hope that you have found the information that we've shared with you today will be useful to you in adopting and using the new MCHW. And to wrap up, I'd just like a reminder of the key benefits of this work. There's the fact that there's fewer and easier to maintain digital content, gone from 7 to 3 volumes with 20% fewer pages and faster navigation to the information. There's clearer and up-to-date requirements in the new SHW, providing a framework for future construction practices and innovation. And there's a clearer and easier way to access instructions for specifiers in the new IFS documents. There's greater efficiency in the production of the contract specifications, as well as enhanced quality of the final outputs using downloadable, standardized WSR templates. There's accessible HTML documents which are easily searchable through the Standards for Highways website, and country-specific versions are now included. So I don't think we mentioned that too much, but if you download one of those, it just shows the core requirements for the whole United Kingdom, plus those in the country that you've chosen within the United Kingdom. So if you're working in Scotland, you choose a contract-specific version just for Scotland. And it enables better outcomes, the quality of the design and construction, and enables better environmental outcomes as well. So we hope that you've enjoyed this session and found it very useful. There's a poll appearing on your screen at the moment. So thank you very much for your time. We'll aim to respond to any remaining questions. So certainly some unanswered questions there today, and we'll consolidate the responses with those collected from future from other webinars as well. And we'll share the FAQ page on the information hub as applicable, so we'll update and put it on there. So thank you very much. Obviously, you've seen all the feedback form which Sully has just announced, and we have some QR codes on there as well. So thank you very much.